Welcome you all. Now, after so many months of work during 2020, having a lot of up and downs, lockdown, 4th of August last, all the challenges, etc. But at the end, we did a good work together. I welcome you all, Your Excellencies, representatives of organizations, everyone. And I will give the floor for Mr. Yassin Jaber.
Thank you, Rabia. I wish you good evening to all colleagues and friends. And I'd like to really begin by thanking you and your organization and Dr. Masarra, and thanking Usaid, and thanking all the participants over the past month and weeks who gave time to attend always and to take part in the discussions in spite of all the difficulties we are facing, starting by COVID-19, lockdowns, and by all the difficult times the Lebanese are living. But I think we're doing something good for the country, for the future of legislation and the country. So the effort was really worth it. And again, I repeat, thanking Usaid for the support and given to this project. And actually, this is not the first time we done other projects before to prepare decrees that helps in implementing existing laws and so on and so forth. And I hope also in the future we can continue in this cooperation. And there's a lot of work to do. There are good ideas. I would like also to compliment the effort you did on the public procurement law, trying to, shed light on the effort that's being done to finish this law. Hopefully, if not of the lockdown, we should have been, finishing it in the committee by this time. Almost 90% of the articles have been approved. We still have a couple of, chapters to finish. And also thank you for preparing what you sent me, Rabia, the day before yesterday. These new ideas that you have worked on that will help actually MPs to really, and their oversight of over public procurement and otherwise. So anyway, also the important point is reviving this platform between members of parliament and the public society, the NGOs and so on, to create this this debate, this trying to open up to each other and try to understand what the MPs are doing, what the parliament is doing, and also try to understand also the what the public is worried about and what ideas they have. So this dialogue, I think, Rabia, is very important, and I hope we can continue in the coming period. I will also thank all my colleagues who also, I can see Ainaya, Ibrahim, I don't know, I mean on my screen I don't see everybody, it's only showing you and a couple of other people, but all the colleagues who also all these meetings we've had. So thanks. I hope that in the conclusion we have done a very good job. All of you have made an effort, and I look forward to. I can see Ula now as well. Alhamdulillah, salam Ula. Welcome back. Alhamdulillah, salam. So I hope we can continue on the same track in the coming period. Thank you, and have a successful webinar tonight, this evening.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Also, we have other members of the parliament. We have Mr. Ibrahim Azar, Mr. George Ace, Mrs. Rola Tabish, Mrs. Inaya Azzeddin, and Mr. Nicholas Nahas, and yourself. So you are all welcome in this regard. I thank you for your introduction and for your support through all over the project, Mr. Jabir. And now I will leave the floor to Usaid. You have to Mr. Claude Zolo. Mainly, we will thank you. We thank you a lot for all the efforts that you are doing to support the Lebanese society in different projects, especially our project that has a good impact. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Rabia. Can you folks hear me? I was having a little difficulty signing in before.
No, you
well,
are
yeah.
We are hearing
okay,
you
great.
well.
Okay, great. I have not turned on my video because, again, I've had some challenges with connectivity. So I think it's probably more important that you hear me rather than see me. And I'll just offer, just a few remarks and let you folks continue. But I want to thank you, Rabia, and MP Mr. Jabir for your participation in the project and your participation today. And wish everybody there good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and other distinguished members of Parliament. I'm really pleased to join you today and to acknowledge what is an important collaborative effort between Parliament and civil society in order to promote best practices and increased accountability on public procurements. Today's event, I think, demonstrates that great results can be achieved when lawmakers and civil society come together to address the needs of the Lebanese people. And over the past 8 years, our $18 million Usaid-funded Building Alliances for Local Advancement Development Investment Capacity Building Program, or BALADI CAP as it is known, has focused a good portion of its work on empowering civil society organizations such as LFPCP. And BALADI CAP has strengthened not only LFPCP, but also strengthened the capacity of some 51 local civil society organizations here in Lebanon. It's helped create 3 advocacy networks that are uniquely positioned to tackle things such as environmental protection and solid waste management, accountability and good governance, as is evidenced by this program, this activity that LFPCP is implementing, as well as human rights in Lebanon. I would also note that we're currently supporting some 12 faith-based organizations here to improve the services they provide to vulnerable communities that they serve. And I would say that Usaid support for LFPCP's work to improve public procurement standards or public procurement stands out as one of the more notable projects carried out under BALADI CAP for 2 reasons. It represents a model of collaboration between policymakers and civil society to advance the interests of Lebanese citizens. It also represents the first time that through a combination of gap analysis that was conducted, the guidelines that were developed for proper oversight of public procurement, and the regulatory impact assessment that was introduced for best practices on transparency, accountability, and good governance. These can be used on future legislation. It is also Usaid's hope that this collaboration analysis will lead to better legislation and increased transparency in the legislative process now and into the future. And more importantly, the project's work on public procurement stands out as one of the most important symbols of reform for the public sector. So again, it is our hope that the successes of this project will advance a fairer and more efficient public procurement process in the future. And I salute you, your dedication, your commitment to this very important activity, and wish you the best of luck in your future endeavors. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Claude, for your words. I want to highlight that Mrs. Lamia Mbayid from Bassel Farhan Institute is joining us in this session. Also, Michelle Samaha from AFD is also joining us, and many members of the committee that is studying this public procurement law is now with us in this session. So you are all most welcome in this regard. I will proceed forward in having a short presentation about what we did during this project. I will share my screen. And then after that, we'll open the floor for all the discussions. So the project title was about enhancing parliamentary openness, transparency, and effective oversight. As Mr. Jaber said, and many others, that the platform for civic engagement and dialogue was a successful interactive model of communication between civil society and MPs. And of course, it was a chance for many discussions, many dialogues on thematic issues. Mainly, we had a session on public procurement, and we had another session on electricity problems, and we had a session on regulatory impact assessment. And there were a lot of debates throughout these meetings. And I want to highlight that we were succeeded in doing physical meeting throughout this hard situation. Another model that we think that it is a success that we started to advocate for it is about a guide on regulatory impact assessment. Our Dutch expert is also with us now on the session, Mr. Eric. He was here for 1 full week in Lebanon, and he met many MPs and civil society organizations, and he produced at the end of his mission a magnificent tool for the lawmaking process. We call it REA, it stands for Regulatory Impact Assessment, that will help the legislator in the future to have impact assessment studies for any law that they will adopt in the plenary. And this will help to solve the data collection problem, to engage more civil society organizations and other stakeholders to prevent any problems in the law, and also the cost effectiveness. So the main achievements, I guess we have, now we're presenting 3, but I guess there are 4 main achievements. The dialogue platform, the gap analysis report on public procurement, the guidelines on REA, and also the guide on public procurement, parliamentary public procurement oversight. Also, we have achieved 2 video spots on public procurement. It is broadcasted on our social media channels. More than 75 participants was engaged in our different meetings and trainings. More than 15 days in total for our work in technical and capacity building. Lessons learned, or the challenges that we have faced, that unfortunately that most of our meetings we conducted outside the parliament. And this was one of the challenges, and this is of course due to the lockdown, Corona, and the 4th of August class that was preventing us to use the parliament room facilities in this sense. But this is one of the lessons learned for the future, that if we will continue, we prefer to work with the parliament, inside the parliament facility in this sense. The main challenges, of course, coronavirus, lockdowns, 4th of August blast, the socio-economical crisis, having a place to meet physically with all the measures, the safe measures that we want to take. This is in general. Thank you, Maribel, for presenting this short and very effective, focused presentation. Thank you all. I will be back now to the discussions, open the discussions for everyone. Now the floor for everyone. I don't know if Dr. Msada, you need to say anything in the beginning? Antoine Msada?
No, I will say something in the conclusion if you want.
Okay, great. طيب. Then.
Rabia, if I may.
Yes, please, Patrick.
Yeah, well, first of all, yeah, I think, this kind of work is on the right track. But in the challenges that you mentioned, I think I would add one, is that I think we can all agree on what needs to happen, in a sense. And this initiative has pointed in the right direction in that context, that we see what needs to happen. And I know, for example, one of the good things that's been happening also is more collaborative action between civil society itself. And I know that the executive offices of LTA has worked very closely with the Institute of Finance on the whole subject of procurement. So it's beyond the program itself. There's a kind of movement to make this happen, which is great. But the challenge, and you touched on it somewhat, it's to work inside Parliament, but for a specific purpose, to engage more members of Parliament in this type of thinking. It's great that we have members of Parliament who have been supporting this initiative, but the problem is that there aren't enough members of Parliament who are engaging in a way that can have the impact we're all looking for. If Parliament is to become an accountable institution that is able to hold government accountable, then it needs to mobilize itself in that direction, and it needs enough members of Parliament for that impact to be felt. And so I really hope that the next efforts, in effect, will go in that direction to kind of to try and have an impact in the way members of Parliament act, behave in a collective and majority kind of context, to be able to hold accountable, to push for the reforms that need to take place. I think this is our real challenge, in effect. It's nice to meet with like-minded individuals, such as the members of Parliament who are with us here today, and civil society organizations. What I'm saying is our target audience needs to be not those who are present here today, those who are somewhat difficult to reach and convince and mobilize. And this is where I think the real challenge is. And again, well done, and looking forward to support again and always.
Thank you. بس بدي أطلب من اللي هو joined us recently يكتبوا لنا إيميلهم واسمهم على chat room. Thank you. Now I think I will give the floor for Eric. Eric, you are still with us? Eric Axie.
Yes, I'm still here.
Eric is talking, is now from, you are in where you are now?
You always need to ask, because I'm moving between, sometimes to Lebanon, of course, but mainly between Kosovo and Albania. At this moment, I'm in Tirana.
Great. Eric is our expert that helped us in developing the regulatory impact assessment. I'd like to have a short word from you in 2 minutes about this important achievement that we did in collaboration with the Lebanese Parliament, and how we can capitalize on what we have achieved.
Happy to do so. Happy to be here with everybody, and nice to see such a great participation also from the members of Parliament. I see several names and faces that I met, so happy to see you again, and thank you very much again for the great welcome that I had when I was in Beirut. I look back to that week as a very effective, efficient, and very welcoming time. Rabia, so again, I mentioned to you before, but you really organized it really well. I had a lot of experience in going on missions, and I think this was one of the best ones I've been participating in. Regulatory impact assessment is about indeed thinking in advance what laws are about. We can also apply it in the end to policies, but that's of course very much the domain as well of the government. But from the parliament perspective, when you develop legislation, when you develop rules to organize your society, it's good in advance to know what it is about, what is necessary in terms of cost, what needs to be done to have it implemented, and of course what will be the benefits.
سوري عم ضل عجقك أنا بس الفايلات يلي أنا مسيفهم على
سوري في حدا يعمل ميوت بعد اسمكم.
Perfect. That can happen. So that you in advance know what you're actually going to adopt. And I can also see and hold the government, for example, to account for the implementation of legislation. Because legislation itself is a document that has a purpose. And the purpose comes from, of course, making sure that it works in practice. Now, we had great interviews. And I think what I really liked about is that there was, if I can call it in a bit of jargon, like a reform momentum that is building up and is already quite high in terms of improving the policy development lawmaking process, not just regarding regulatory impact assessment, but also initiatives linked to public consultation, to costing of legislation and policies. Those kind of elements coming in, I think it's very good to see that. Build on those would be my advice. Integrate them, because it's very much like a better regulation, public administration reform package that you're already looking at. I think it's very vital to move forward, and there was a comment before about that you said, like, look, we need to go beyond the group of people that are present here. I think that is something that also got confirmed in all the meetings that I had, where people said, like, yes, we have a group of front runners that really would like to see the changes implemented. And then, of course, to make sure that it's carried by an institution like the Parliament, you need to make sure that the parliamentarians as such, the majority of them says, like, yes, we want to move forward. We want to make sure that regulatory impact assessment becomes a standard process, potentially also linking to the government to make it a standard element, not just of the decision-making inside the Parliament, but also inside the decision-making processes of the Lebanese government. In a nutshell, there is a guidance already, like, that can be further developed by the Parliament and how they would like to implement regulatory impact assessment, but also a set of recommendations on actually how to move forward, what kind of issues to take into account, and how to build the capacities and institutional organization to run regulatory impact assessment as a normal standard process of the decision-making process of the Lebanese Parliament. Having that said, if there are any questions, or Rabbi, if you would like to comment.
Thank you. Mr. Ziad Haik, he's raising his hand. Mr. Ziad, he was the General Director of the Public-Private Council, or Higher Council for Privatization and Partnership. And he's one of the main experts in PPP and PP as well. So it was a pleasure that we started a collaboration with him last year, and we developed guidelines on transparency mechanisms at PPP procedures. And I want to tell you, Mr. Haik, that this guideline was transferred this year to an implementing decree. Through our project, we have, and through our experts, thanks to Mr. Ibn Malouf and Mr. Simon Awad, we have we drafted and developed a new implementing decree on transparency on PPP procedures, and was delivered to the council. The floor is yours, Mr. Haik.
Thank you very much, Rabia. I'm delighted to hear that it has passed into a decree. This is excellent. And I want to congratulate you. I want to congratulate every member of Parliament here that I've had a tremendous positive experience working with. I mean, if people out on the street would know how some good parliamentarians, how hard they work and how serious they are and how dedicated, I think people would have a different reaction to our politics these days. But as Badri was saying, it is still a minority, and we need to involve more people in that, more parliamentarians in this kind of approach, in making sure that laws are implemented. The comment I want to make here is about the regulatory impact assessment that you mentioned, that Eric mentioned. We worked for about a year on a regulatory impact assessment with OMSAR. At the time, Mr. Ali Birro was advisor to the minister. And so we worked for a year on a regulatory impact assessment on the PPP legislation, from economic side, from social side, from all aspects. And, you know, at the end, these things go nowhere. So I would very much hope and urge all decision makers that are still in government, since I have left, to really work on continuity. It is a shame that with every change of government, that we lose continuity and we start again from scratch. This part of our governance system that has to change. And I don't know if this can be changed through legislation, if it has to change through a clarification of our constitution, so as ministers no longer are the final dictator and decision maker in their ministry, and become more of a chairman that let the director general in the ministry continue to implement policies and programs so that there is continuity. But I was just reminded of this intense work that we did that then ends up nowhere. And there's so many other projects, of course, that go this way. So I just wanted to thank you again and wish you all the best, wish everybody here all the best in continuing to do the good work they are doing, and have a great year ahead. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Ziad. And of course, we are in good coordination with OMSAR, and we are aware of this. Thank you. Mrs. Lamia Mbayed, she is the head of Basil Flayhan Institute. She was always a good ally for all the work that we did. Although she is now in holidays, but we are grateful for your participation with us. Also, we thank you for the great work that you are doing in terms of drafting and developing this public procurement law. So the floor is yours.
Thank you, Rabia. You know, there is no vacation when you are in public service, and public service in all its sense, especially these days where we are solicited not only to do our work, but to help out in any way we can, from humanitarian to supporting our colleagues also in the health sector. So there is no such thing as vacation. But just a quick word first to commend the excellent work that you have been doing, and that we're very, very happy, proud, and find it extremely fruitful, the way this collaboration has been conducted. Starting a procurement reform is one of the most complicated and definitely one of the most challenging tasks that a country does. But I may confidently say, and very responsibly also say, that we have had a very good allies, and I certainly am pointing to the head of the Commission, Mr. Yassin Jabir, who has been probably one of the greatest champion of advancing on this front, and making the work that we have been doing at the Institute of Finance really come to a materialization, and taking it up to Parliament. The work that has been done also, you know, putting together a committee that has moved on this reform and providing it and opening up to the discussions with the civil society organizations, among them many good friends here on the list, Ziad, Badri, and all the other people. I think there are in this country today, for this particular theme, a very positive momentum and a good alliance between public servants, parliamentarians, decision makers, and civil service society organization that we need greatly to advance such a complicated complicated portfolio which touches upon competition, which touches upon corruption, which touches upon also, you know, breaking the capture in some ways, efficiency, value for money, and certainly integration with budgets. And we have a long way to go. So what you have been doing as organization is helping us bond all this effort together and making it move the easiest way possible. So just a word for the record for this wonderful job. Thank you.
Thank you, Lamia, and we will be always collaborate for the good benefit.
We're counting on that because the road is very, very long. So thank you also for Usaid who has provided this support, and hopefully to BALADI CAP also a good continuation.
Thank you, Lamia. Before we move on, also, I'd like to thank all BALADI CAP team, Nada, Nadine, Asil, Hussein, everyone. They were really great asset and good support in all the difficult times that we passed by. Thank you all. And we are now we are a family at the end now, after many years of working together. I will move on to Eli Naim. Eli Naim, he is the one who take the initiative of working on this parliamentary oversight guide on public procurement. Eli, انت هون معنا؟
دايما.
Okay, so if you can give a word in this regards also. And Eli was leading in this initiative with the help of Eli Malouf and Simon Mawad. But please, if you can say some words in this regards.
Well, first, thank you, Rabia. Thank you for giving the opportunity to make a part of the team. It was a great opportunity. And the most important is the opportunity to like Lamia said, is to bond and to bundle, let me say, all the efforts of many institutions in Lebanon all together, and not to work each one by himself or each institution by itself. So that was a great chance to put together all the work that has been done. And initially by the maps thing that was done, the survey that was done by the IOF. Thank you again, Lamia, and all the team at IOF for this great work that paved the work for us for the public procurement law and for the oversight guide. Again, I can say one very important message, Rabia, we discussed earlier, is the problem in studying the laws. Whenever legislations are passed or are studied, legislators are not looking into past laws. They are just making laws, drafting laws without any checking for past laws or for past texts. And this is something that is causing major discrepancies in the application or in the implementation of a certain law. Especially, we can see this now in the PP law. What has happened in the PP law is a great example. We gathered, sorry, Lamia, I'm saying this maybe on your behalf. We gathered during the MAPS report more than 2,000 pages of laws related to public procurement in Lebanon. And this was an opportunity for all the people who are working in this field to use many laws at their convenience sometimes, and make things not really to the international standards. But with a PP law that is being studied now, we are canceling all this chaos, all this chaotic thing, and we are working under only one law. And this is the greatest message that can be done during this phase, maybe. So thank you, Rabia, for the opportunity again. Thank you, Usaid, for the opportunity. Thank you, BALADI CAP. Thank you for all the parliamentarians who work with us in this project. And I hope you also give example to other deputies to do the same and to bond much more with the civil society and give this idea to the Parliament. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eli. Judge Rabia Malouf, and then after that I would like to hear something from Michel Smeha. Judge Rabia Malouf.
Thank you, Rabia, for the first. Thank you for the opportunity. I would like to ask everyone a short question. So today, the legislative function in parliaments is declining all over the world, and there are mainly two indicators for that. The first one being the rare approval of bills that initiate in the parliament, and the second one being the big number of bills that originate in the government and that they go through parliament without being amended. So the question is, should we be targeting parliaments or governments when it comes to the legislating?
So I will leave this question later on after Michel to your friend Georgia Ace. So Georgia Ace prepared the answer to Rabia Malouf.
Excellent. Thank you.
So Michel Smeha.
Hello, everybody. Hello, Rabia. Thank you for the invitation. I would just like to say one thing on behalf of AFD Lebanon. What you have been doing, Rabia, as an organization and in coordination with Usaid and with the financing of Usaid is very important at this stage, and it will be important also in the next phases. All I can say for the time being that AFD with other donors from international community will continue to support this reform. We are here for this. We are partners of Lebanese population and Lebanese institutions, and also I think in order to facilitate this and make this reform succeed, I think all we can say is to invite Lebanese partners, counterparts, administrations, institutions as the experts to work hand in hand to move forward. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Michel. And also we rely for more coordination with you and with AFD. Thank you. Mr. Georgia S.
Yes, Rabia.
You didn't hear the question of Rabia Malouf?
No.
Okay, so
can you repeat the question, please?
I will repeat it. No worries. So today the legislative function in parliaments is said to be declining, not just in Lebanon but all over the world. And there are two main indicators that show that. The first one being that bills that are initiated in parliament are rarely approved and rarely voted as laws. And the second one being that the big number of bills that originate in the government go through the parliament without being amended. So the parliament is just accepting the bills that come from government without actually debating the laws and just quickly approving them. So is that the problem that we're facing in Lebanon? And second, if that is the case also in Lebanon, should the impact assessment also be targeting, or this training be targeting ministers or ministries where the big number of laws are originating from, and not just the parliament? And thank you,
It's
Rabia.
a very good question. I think all of us are involved in trying to give some answers to this question. I'm not sure if this is the case in other developed countries, but I think in Lebanon, yes. And not only this, we have many other problems, and I think more critical than this. The main one is that most of the parliamentarians in this parliament are not professionals in making laws as such. We have, I think, between 13 or 15 lawyer or former judges or law academics. This is our main problem. The second one is the enforcement of laws. I think Mr. Jaber is now heading a committee, an ad hoc committee, to try to give some remedies to this really critical problem in Lebanon, that we have almost 60 laws. We sensed almost 60 laws without any enforcement, without any will of application from the government. But I may say, if we want to take advantages and benefits from this collaboration between civil society and parliamentarian, and I'm sad to say this in a closing ceremony as described by Rabia. We don't have to make a closing ceremony or a final ceremony. We have to initiate a new cooperation, a comprehensive one, a sustainable one between civil society in Lebanon and between parliament, especially these days, whereas the parliament itself is discredited by most of the population. That's why some of parliamentarian blocs, namely the one I belong to, are claiming a premature election. So I really want to hear from you, Rabia, what are the next steps to make this institution, between brackets, between civil society and parliamentarian, based on the success we made throughout the last months together.
Of course, thank you for your contribution and your intervention, Mr. Ais. This is the platform, and the dialogue is one of the main successes that we want to build on to continue with you and with the other notable MPs that are participating now for future dialogues on thematic issues, as we did during this last year.
So we have to continue.
Sorry?
So we have to continue our work, our collaboration.
Of course. And also, we need to brainstorm together how to move forward on all the other topics that we have already started with. I have 3 hands up. First, I want to hear from Mr. Yassin Jaber, and also if he can give us ideas of what next, how we can build on what we did. Same for the others, that I will ask the same question for everyone.
Thank you, Rabia. I just wanted to intervene on the question of Mr. Malouf. The laws that are sent from government are not really debated by parliament. And from my experience, this is not very accurate. And I can give examples of laws that I chaired a committee to look at, and we actually changed completely what was proposed by government. And I will give one example: capital markets law. When the government sent it back in I think 2007, Minister Azrour was the Minister of Finance, and he was proposing in the law something very similar to SEC, Security and Exchange Committee in the States, which actually what happened during our discussions, if you remember, everything collapsed financially in the world, and we actually changed the law completely to make a special law very, very different from what was proposed. So actually, we do change. For example, the law on cannabis for medical use. I mean, everybody thought we're going to create a new regime and that the government will be the one buying it. Now we did a completely different idea in the subcommittee of creating actually a body that will just oversee and the private sector will take part in it. So no, we do discuss a lot. This is it depends always on who is working on a law and how much is interested in producing a good law. The other thing about not looking at the past, etc. The MPs themselves, they cannot be doing that legwork, you see. So we bring in experts and specialists and so on and so forth. And that's what for example, the people, Lamia and her team, who are all very well trained experts, help doing in the PP law and the public procurement law, help to really, through long months of work, to make a law that has looked at the past and looked at the future and come up with the modern law. As for the coming period, first of all, as I said in my opening words, and as you said, and as George, my dear active colleague, is saying, this platform existed in Parliament. It went dead for a while, and now it has been revived. This platform that will create a dialogue between the members of Parliament and the civil society. And we hope that we can continue with it when things, and I think it's very necessary these days. And as everybody knows, we tried in this law we're studying at the moment, the PP law, to involve as much as possible the civil society, take their ideas and explain to them what we are doing. And as I said in my opening remarks, we want to continue working with you and the colleagues and the civil society and institutions like, donors like Usaid and others, if possible. We have in the Parliamentary Foundation, probably, I don't know who else would like to. We had the EU join with and Hans, you worked for them for a while in the Parliament. We want to continue on the path of trying to help in the important issue of implementing the laws. George brought up a very important point, and you are aware of it. And the problem we are facing in Lebanon today, we don't have a state that's ruled by law. There's a problem. Ministers think they are gods in their ministries. They make their own laws, you see. Although Article 66 of the Constitution, and this is a very big debate today, and we're having it in the media all the time, the minister is not God. The minister administers the ministry by implementing the laws and regulations. He has to implement the law. And I think one of the very important things in the future is when things are a bit, more favorable circumstances than now, with all the heated political debate, when we have time to sit down and think about the future, we have to think, how can we oblige a minister to implement? I know everybody says that we have a vote of confidence, but as we all know at the moment, complete paralysis politically. Let's hope there will be a time where we can build the Lebanon of law and institutions. Thank you.
Thank you for your intervention. Mrs. Anaya,
yes. Thank you. Thank you. Also, I want to comment on Mr. Ma'louf's question. Of course, I agree with all what Mr. Jaber, my colleague, mentioned. But I want to really add a point, despite what Mr. Malouf mentioned, but there was also a debate during the pandemic about how much parliaments should play a more aggressive role, maybe, in setting the direction for the executive level, in setting better citizen right-based approach centered to approach to their policies, because of all the collapses, all the gaps that were uncovered by the pandemic in many countries, at the economic, social level, not only at the health level. And there has been a call for parliaments to get more involved also in setting the legislative environment and the institutional setup for the collaborative approach of the different ministries together, as our colleagues mentioned also, especially in Lebanon, where under the Ta'if agreement pretext, everybody works in a silo, different and isolated from the other ministry. And you cannot set policies that are really integrated, that are really cost-effective and efficient and make more for less and citizen-centered unless we work collaboratively and in order to make a transformation in the governance, at the governance level. And I think there has been, of course, there has been, despite all the negative atmosphere that we live in, there is a momentum for reform everywhere in the country and everywhere all over the world. At the level of concerning the RIA, I think there is room for the regulatory impact assessment in the parliament and also at the executive level, because sometimes the government might set regulations, not laws, that have maybe social impact or economic impact, and they need to be assessed and they need to be studied under this law. Concerning the remark that my colleague George mentioned about that we don't have a lot of people who are expert in lawmaking. Of course, we have to have people expert in lawmaking in the parliament among the MPs. But I think first and before everything, the MPs have to be not necessarily excellent or experts in drafting laws, but they have to be, I don't know what to call it in English, حقوقيين. يعني look for have the right based thinking, right giving a priority to the rights of the citizens and make legislation and examine of every policy that the government is setting or is putting from this lens, the rights of the citizens. We have to have, I think, diversity of specialties within the parliament. I think law drafters, sometimes if we disregard this dimension that I have just mentioned, we might set laws that are not really inclusive or not really justice-based, or sometimes, we have in Lebanon some kind of corruption that is built in the laws. So we have to have a wider lens than only being expert in lawmaking. Thank you.
Your Excellency, any recommendations for the future?
I mean, we have everything that has been done during this period, and we thank you for all the efforts. Of course, we have to stress more and more the implementation of the laws, but we have to internalize within our institutions structures of responsibilities, accountabilities, and capacity building. Because of course there are new ideas and there are new approaches and there are new, I think, dimension to any reform tool that we are setting within our laws. One of them is the procurement law, the RIA also. We have to build in capacities and follow up with the implementation.
Thank you. Mr. Claude Zulu.
Thank you, Rabia. So I just wanted to respond to somebody. I apologize, I didn't catch the name, but somebody had asked, where should the focus be? Should it be on the ministries or on Parliament? And I would just note, sort of based on my prior experience, typically, for example, the ministries propose and Parliament disposes. So usually, because the ministries have the capacity and so on to to craft legislation, they do that, but then it usually then goes to parliamentary committees for consideration and to massage the legislation. So yes, so I guess the answer to the question is perhaps a little bit of both. I think some focus needs to be placed on helping the ministries develop the capacity to generate legislation that is consistent, and I want to emphasize consistent with international norms. But then it is also incumbent upon parliamentary ministries to play their function to check on that ministry proposed legislation. And I understand Lebanon. In fact, this is the case in a lot of parliamentary systems that parliamentarians and committees do not have a lot of staff or capacity or expertise to focus a critical eye on these sorts of legislations. But again, this is why we have organizations like LFPCP. You have the MAPS program. There is plenty of outside capacity upon which Parliament can draw on to help them make those decisions. And again, try to shape that legislation so that it is consistent with international standards and norms. Thank you.
Thank you, Claude. I have two hands raised, but after that, I'd like to hear certain contributions from the parliamentarians that didn't talk till now. Badri? Badri?
Yes, thank you, Rabia. Just a few points to make. I'll be brief. Regarding this important question of who to target, definitely both, but we could break it down even more. Within the ministries, it should be not only the ministers themselves which should be targeted, but also the heads of the public administrations, the director generals, and this will help to address the challenge of continuity when ministers come and go. But definitely, at the end of the day, it's not just about laws being passed. It's also about the role of Parliament in monitoring the implementation of the laws. The executive, the government, is accountable to Parliament on that. And Parliament needs to mobilize itself, I think, to be able to do that better. And there are examples from different parliaments around the world on critical issues, whether it's on the subject of Brexit in England or the subject of the impeachment of the American president, where parties actually vote, or those who you might expect would vote against end up voting with, or decide to vote as a bloc together for something, simply as a consequence of cooperation between members of parliament themselves. And this, I think, brings it down to what the real challenge is here in our country, is that the traditional political parties have immense influence on the members of parliament underneath them and how they vote. And that makes that whole process more difficult. But that doesn't mean it's not impossible. We need to develop that culture in the way that members of parliament function, to ask more questions, to ask the difficult questions to the executive, the government, and to have more higher, robust level of oversight on what the executive is doing. And this is what the whole purpose of this is. So we need to target more members of parliament. We need to target the ministers themselves. We need to target the director generals, so that not only do they understand why but they also hopefully begin to understand that there is a growing movement for this, and there is no in between. Either you are for these reforms or you are not, and we need to isolate those who are not. This is another challenge. We need to isolate those who are not, and it's becoming clearer and clearer that there are some who are not for reform. Otherwise, we would have seen reforms a long time ago.
Okay, thank you, Badri. Back to you, Rabia Malouf, who created all this debate, which is interesting debate.
I'm very happy to create other debates also. Thank you, Rabia. But just one quick observation regarding deliberation. I think the essence of any parliamentary system is deliberation. But we all agree and that deliberation should be done in public, and that's the essence of any parliamentary work. I guess in Lebanon particularly, debates are done in committee and legislative committees, so behind closed doors, and they're less and less done in the General Assembly, and this affects accountability greatly, and this actually limits the role of the parliament in controlling the government and in shedding the light on important issues. So we as citizens could know what's being debated and how changes are being done. Mr. Yassin said a lot of laws are being changed. That's excellent. But in my opinion, what is more important than change itself is how we got to that change. And this should be made public. So debates should be done mostly and mainly in the General Assembly, where everyone can hear and see how the members of parliament that they voted for actually are debating the laws. So that was my
okay. Thank you, Rabia. Well,
thank you very much.
In fact, the discussions of the plenary is open and it's not secret. What is secret is the parliamentary committees, not the plenary.
Yes.
It is.
Exactly.
There were, we are debating on this since years, and many parliamentarians. And I guess now Mr. Okais is raising his hand. He's saying that he's pro this idea without saying I know what he will say.
Yes.
But Rabia, you also,
many others can just.
We mentioned in one of our previous meetings that how many question times have we had in Lebanon since 1991?
Well, we have exact statistics. Mr. Simon Awad, he has exact statistics. How many questions? How many oversight sessions? All of these statistics we have it, and especially Mr. Mawad, he has all the statistics. Yes, and I then will proceed to Mr. Ibrahim Azar after you.
Yes, I was just saying to my ex-colleague Rabia Malouf that I previously submit a proposition of law regarding the publicity operations in the committees, and I think you just have to lobby for approving this proposition in the assembly. I think this is crucial, a barometer for the legislative work, and I submitted twice already. The first time the speaker to hear about it. The second, I think he transferred it to the Administration and Justice Committee, and
okay.
I think this is very important. Yes.
Thank you.
And we have to act quickly regarding the publicity of the deliberation.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Ibrahim Azar.
Thank you, Rabia. I would like to thank your organization and Usaid for this opportunity to participate with you. In addition to all what has been said,
I would like to point out that I believe that the administration officials as well, the general directors, the heads of service, should be involved in such seminars and programs, because they are, as Badri said, they are the continuity for the institution. In addition to these kinds of target people, I believe that scrutiny and oversight institutions, and such as judicial authorities and central inspection as well, because they have a major role to assist in all kinds of oversight. I believe that more transparency and dialogue between parliamentarians, members of government, with the civil society, and with the involved experts in matters that are being under study for a legislation of some kind, should be more it should be within our mentality. It should be a basic basis for any legislation, and more involvement of experts and persons related to this, where any legislation is being under study. Definitely the RIA and the collaboration with the civil society will certainly limit the risk of litigation mistakes, legislation mistakes. I don't believe that most of the mistakes were intentional, or, like my colleague Inaya said, somebody was trying to find a way to circumvent the law. I don't believe so, and not in the parliament at least. And lastly, I guess the issue of the implementation of laws is crucial. And I have to admit that with all due respect to my colleague and friend, Mr. Jaber, we have failed in this as a parliament, because we are not able to have these laws implemented. This is what I wanted to say, and thank you everybody for your participation.
Thank you, Mr. Ibrahim. Zena Mhanna from Amel Foundation, then Lamia.
Hello, everyone. Thank you again. It has been really an enriching experience to be with everybody. Thanks really to the efforts of Rabia and the association to bridge the gap between civil society and parliamentarians. As a summary and reflecting back on what we did, I believe that it was quite very much noticed that there is a big issue in effectiveness and efficiency in legislation that could make a big difference. We always speak about people, but this platform showed that it's really about the system. We need to professionalize more the system, and there are lots of logistical, technical components, if strengthened, could push the legislation and the parliamentary life to a different level. I could name some of the issues that we raised, like the planning, the strategy, making sure that the members of the committee are expert in their committee where they are, have a body of legislators around every MP to support in the legislation, where the idea of having students or trainers and linking with universities, ensuring that the agenda moves as planned, etc. It's clear that, and especially the procurement file that was conducted is a live example of how, if we're pushing the file in one side, and as MP Jaber said that he succeeded in many other files to move forward, which highlights the value of this partnership and this platform, where also the cooperation with the civil society could bring, and as Dr. Lamia Mbayed also highlighted, the evidence-based approach, where definitely the field could advise, and the civil society on the field level, and the socio-economic challenges that could be highlighted in the legislation, where it could meet and push the agenda of social justice forward. So definitely linking theory to practice could take Lebanon to another level. So definitely we really advise that this platform continues. Many challenges were there, but I think Rabia and everyone succeeded to make it happen despite everything, and we hope that this will proceed forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Zena, and also we are grateful for all your inputs and participation. Back to you, Lamia, and also I have a question for you. For many here in this session, they like to know where we stand in the public procurement law. at which stage, and how much time we need in order to make it pass?
Well, on this, I'll probably, Mr. Jaber is better positioned to answer this question. I just wanted to highlight how crucial is the question that was posed by Mr. Malouf. And we are quite believers that the bills should be based on a previous evidence-based work on policies that are grounded in data and comparative analysis with context of other countries, and also on the international model laws if you want really to be in a contextual and internationally contextual attractive environment in the future. So here there is some capacity to bring in to core governmental institution, and this applies a lot. We've seen to many areas. We've seen when the work is done on evidence, how it changes perception. I'm not only referring to the public procurement law, but also to other draft bills. We've seen it, for example, in the law on for the detainees, for when the evidence were brought in, how many positions were changed. We've seen it on in so many other areas. The more, what I'm trying to say is, if we build enough capacity for doing evidence-based work prior to developing the bills, this will ground the bill not only in terms of quality and efficiency, but also in terms of its capacity for implementation. So the comments, that the final comment is that we have an excellent opportunity to document the case study and the lessons learned, brought by the MAPS exercise and the development of the PPR law. And we can certainly use it as a case for changing the methodologies or adapting the methodology to more modern ways. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jaber, and after that, I'd like to hear something from Mrs. Rola Tabsh. Mr. Jaber, the question is for you about where we stand on this public procurement law and how much time we need in order to pass.
Public procurement law, Rabia, as I said in the opening words, and we're almost done. We only still have two chapters to conclude, which are about the format of the administration of the of this body, and we have also the issue of creating a complaints body. Once we finish this, it's concluded. Yeah, I think we have moved quite ahead in the study. But once this lockdown is, because we had 3 members of the committee catch corona, and Muhammad Hajjar, and Ula, and Faisal, and even the photographer Ali Fawaz, who sticks to me all the time, also caught corona. And today we have the new variant of corona, which is moving very fast. Once it's a bit better, within the coming few days, we'll see if we can call for a meeting. And I don't want to expose everybody to come and be exposed to corona. But anyway, and I just wanted to comment on the debate about the parliament, and that, like everything else in Lebanon today, we need change. Actually, the issue of making public the committee meetings is a dream for me. We've been proposing that since 2004. It's not something new. Unfortunately, we couldn't move ahead with this because Anna personally, I wish that, for example, the deliberations of the Finance Committee over the years would be published, so that people could know that we were debating and we were expressing opinions. But I hope that with the new Lebanon, the Parliament has to also change. We need more question times. We need more, debates. We need every few months we meet, every few weeks. we need to just have some laws that we pass. No, this is not the parliament that we all dream of. We want a parliament that meets twice a week and gives enough time for every important law, and we have question time, and we can really question the government. We used to do that, Rabia, in the old days. We had that. We have been actually, the whole situation in Lebanon has been a chaos. And hopefully, in spite of the difficulties we are living today, maybe out of the ashes, a phoenix will come out, the new Lebanon that we all dream of, because there's, with the situation as it is today, and as I said in my deliberations, unless we create a Lebanon that believes that law is above all, and when a law is issued, approved, it has to be implemented, and we believe in the work of institutions. Whatever we do, we're not going to get anywhere. Today we're at the bottom, and the only way we have is to pick ourselves up and try to move forward and get out of this deep hole we have put ourselves in. And thank you, and I have to thank you. Can I conclude? And because I have something at 5.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Rabia, and thank you everybody for all the work. And we're not saying bye-bye, we're saying so long. We will see you again soon in a new project, I'm sure. You were telling me today you have some new ideas. So great, we'll meet again with all the colleagues, and I hope we will have more colleagues joining us in this effort. شكرا كثير, يعطيكم العافية. And again, I repeat my thanks to everybody who's been with us over the past few weeks, and to Usaid and all the supporters.
Thank you, Mr. Jaber. We will continue for maximum 10 to 15 minutes more, and then we will conclude. I'd like to hear something from Mrs. Rola Tabish, and then Mr. Noula Nakhaz. Mrs. Rola Tabish. Rola? I don't know. Then let's proceed to Mr. Noula Nakhaz. تفضل. I'm unmute. ما عم نسمعك, لازم تعمل unmute.
Yes, sorry. So I'm saying hi, Rabia, and hi, everybody. So I was saying that I was listening carefully to all what has been said for the past hour or more, perhaps. The important issue, which I can conclude on that we are, let's say, two bodies who are trying to join forces in order to have a better output. And I think one of the most brilliant example is the procurement law. The procurement law is an example which should be reproduced. We should be an example how to join forces, because it's about how to join forces. About how to join forces, we have to be focused. It means we have to get out of generality and choose some specific item, specific topics on which we can have a close collaboration. Without that, it will be let's say, a dispersed effort. We are in a chaotic time. Institutions are not working. And unfortunately, most of the actually laws are under proposed law and not project law. When it is a proposed law, it doesn't come through a kind of strategy or a program or something which has a finality to reach, like when a government make a project law. So when most of the law are under proposed law, this by itself is a weakness, not a strength. Because most of them are perhaps based on some, I would say, populist issue, to be frank. So in order to move forward with the civil society, which are bringing their capacity as to being, let's say, the back office of the parliamentarians who would like to have a scientific approach in making rules. Because unfortunately, we don't have in the parliament a kind of back office where we can have judges, big lawyers, when we want to approach a law. So this, let's say, collaboration could be that to bring a back office whenever there is a specific law on which we have decided to join forces. Because the idea is good, but if we are not focused, we don't choose kind of specific project, meaning laws to work on. Because if we have a solid document, then we can lobby within the other MPs to join us. But it shouldn't be kind of sporadic proposal law, which I think is not a proper way to go to legislation. So I'm saying again, to conclude, the example of the procurement law, and I'm really proud of what Lamia and all the TAV has done, is an excellent example on how we could join forces, because we need to join forces. We have to be focused. We have to know the limits of what we can do, what we can't do, and to accept to go in this course and trying to bring other MP when we have a solid document to join, let's say, the kind of common work which we will have done together. So that's my recommendation.
Thank you. I will ask everyone if you please open your camera for the last 5 minutes of the meeting in order to take some group photos, if you don't mind. Rola Tabish is still with us. I'm not sure. Rola Tabish. Okay. ندى بتحبي تقولي شيء قبل ما نختم؟ ندى unmute.
Hello, everyone. I want to thank you all. First of all, I want to thank all the MPs for participating and for your valuable contribution all this year. I want to thank also the CSOs, all the CSOs for their valuable contribution, for the discussions, for their participation, and definitely AFD, Mr. Michel Smeha, and Mrs. Lamia Mbayed from Basel Institute. I want to thank Rabia and the team, all LFPCP team, for their efforts, hard efforts. It was a successful project, and I hope to continue. I'm looking forward for the implementation of this draft and for things to move forward more and more, especially the participation to continue the participation between the parliamentarians and civil society organizations. Thank you very much.
Thank you for you, Nada, and for your support, for the support of all BALADI CAP team. إلي معلوف بتحب تقول شيء لو بالعربي؟
الحقيقة لا، الكفو وفو، يعني النقاش فات بكل المواضيع. إذا بدك نحن عرضت واشتغلنا بشكل أساسي على تحليل القانون ووضعنا دراسة عليه. أكيد حاولنا قدر الإمكان هذه قصة العلاقة بين مجلس النواب والسلطة التنفيذية، إنه يكون يعني بالقسم اللي شاركت فيه على الأقل إنه يكون كامل وما يحتاج لكتير مراسيم تطبيقية، بس كان لابد من وجود بعض المراسيم اللي بدها تصدر، وهذه الورشة يمكن هلأ لازم تنطلق سريعا حتى يتأمن تطبيق القانون.
تسلموا رئيس. سيمون معوض بتحب تقول شيء قبل ما نختم؟
بحب أشكرك وأشكر كل اللي شاركوا، كل اللي حكيوا. ثانك يو للكل، وإن شاء الله إنه الأفكار اللي حطوها كلهم واللي عرضوها إنه تتحقق بشيء عملي.
زياد عبد الصمد، شفنا سؤال على التشات روم بس ما سمعناك اليوم.
أنا كمان بدوري بدي أشكر يعني المبادرة، وفعلا مهمة. It was a very good opportunity to bridge the gap between the parliamentarians and civil society. We succeeded يعني in somehow to exchange ideas, or sometimes we've been very sincere or open, or sometimes we've been a little bit aggressive, but we need from time to time to be clear on some issues. And I recommend that this should continue, but we need to find a way where to be more efficient. And I'm not sure that this debate went into the parliamentary processes. So we need to be more efficient and to be more influential, and to see how we can, let's say, have kind of a more institutionalized dynamic between civil society and the parliamentarians. It's something it has been said about, how we can create backup offices or this kind of consultancies or advisory processes, but this is something that we need to think about in our future. So thank you very much, and thank you for the parliamentarians who are attending this session and giving us from their time to listen to our concerns.
Thank you زياد. دكتور توني عطلة بتحب تقول شيء قبل ما نختم؟
I have to leave you guys. I have to leave you. So see you next time, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. دكتور توني عطلة.
Thank you, Rabia, for organizing this virtual meeting. I congratulate all who worked on the writing of the guide. We are going through very difficult circumstances. The program of the Lebanese Foundation for a Permanent Civil Peace are distinguished by their effectiveness and impact. The work of this foundation has nothing to do with slogan. Here in this foundation that we are working for real reform and change. This meeting is the result of several previous meetings which have brought us to this stage. You have made a great effort. Currently, government work is almost blocked by the political crisis. In a later phases, everything will be restarted. This is why today work is fundamental and at the same time founding work, this work. We all know that the public procurement in Lebanon suffered from anarchy and non-transparency. Civil society will play a more important role. The next national stage cannot continue in the way before October 17. This all, I thank you for this opportunity. Thank you, Rabia.
Thank you, Tony. Rola Nasrallah from the Ministry of Economy. حابة تقولي شيء؟
Yes, thank you, Rabia, and hello, everyone. I was really so impressed. I joined you at the end of the project, so I wish next time I will be joining you from the start to be more involved. So I was really very impressed how this public procurement law, draft law was prepared and now being discussed. From the mapping activity to involving all stakeholders, to this collaboration and coordination among all stakeholders between institutions, public-private sectors, and with the civil society. It's just this is how laws should be developed, and I hope the work will continue while developing the implementation decrees. And while and being also gender sensitive, as Eli promised me, focusing on women empowerment. So, and I hope also there will be a monitoring and evaluation during the law implementation, law enforcement, because this is where the problems and obstacles are. We have a major issue in law enforcement and implementing law and respecting law and with accountability. So this is very important to tackle these issues and to take it into consideration for later on. It's not just enough to develop a very well comprehensive law and implementing decrees. We should also tackle later on while implementing law enforcement and accountability of the law and its implementing decrees. Thank you all.
Thank you, Rula. My colleagues and friends, BALADI CAP, Nadine, Asil, Hussein, anyone need to add something?
Rabia, thank you very much, and thank you everyone who contributed to this successful project. أنا كنت عم بواكب Rabia, the LFPCP, of course, for the past 5 years, and you've done an amazing job بكل project عملتوه. So, of course, the credit goes to Rabia and to Mariabel and Dr. Masaria for all their hard work, and definitely not forgetting the work of the MPs. And the civil society on the top of the list, of course. So thank you, everyone. I think everyone ذكر continuity, and this is what we look for, and this is what we aim at actually in the coming few years. صحيح, we know that civil society needs financing or funding in order to continue and to be sustainable, but we wish that you go beyond our expectations in the coming few years and months. MP جورج عقيس and all the MPs present, إبراهيم عزار, نحن اتكلنا عليكم تتكملوا, ووقت ربيع يبطل كمان أنتم ترجعوا شدوا على الطريق الصحيح وتكمل لنمشي أكتر لقدام. So أكيد بتمنى أنه نرجع هيك, our path will cross again soon. BALADI CAP is coming to an end, but of course our work shouldn't come to an end at any moment in time. So thank you everyone, and best of luck in the coming in the coming future endeavors. Oh, thank you again.
Thank you, Nadine. Asil, Hussein, you need to add anything? Or you're good?
Yes, hi Rabia. أول شيء thank you so much to you and the LFPCP team for all of your efforts. وأكيد a big thank you to all of the civil society organizations and parliamentarians who joined us and made this happen. So thank you.
Hussein, أنت هنا؟
Yes, I'm with you. Okay, so again, thank you all for your efforts. Thank you for your commitment. And I can say that we had, throughout كل activities that we did with Rabia in the past, I think 8-9 months, really a big number of participation, and I think we have achieved the target in terms of participants, which is really reflects the success and the commitment and the seriousness of committing to achieve the objectives and to do a real change. Again, I would really appreciate the coming future any project that we do as MSI or as Usaid to have your commitment again, because this is only one step of 100 miles. So thank you all, and looking forward to meet you again all in under different projects, and I think we will for sure meet very soon in other project, and wish you all the best. Thank you.
Just bear with me another 3 minutes and we will finish. ماريبيل بتحبي تقولي شيء؟
يعني أنا ماني حابة أخر بقى حدا، بس عن جد I'm really so glad that we ended up now with this final conference. I'm so glad to hear all this feedback. I'm really proud of all the efforts we've done, and especially with Usaid and BALADI CAP. I'm really thankful for this team who really helped us as LFPCP grow, and already you believed in us. So I'm thanking Usaid and BALADI CAP for that, and I really thank all the MPs, especially that they are representing many political parties, and that's why we count on you to spread all this trust in the reforms to come. So that's why maybe we could at least tackle more political parties in the next projects. But we're really glad that you represent at least big groups that could really help us back our reforms and the new public policies. Thank you so much.
Okay, please put your camera for the final photo. Ari from the parliament, بدك تقول شيء Ari؟ عندك شيء تقوله؟ ولا you are okay? Ari from the parliament.
Yes, hello. I'm okay, thank you. I have heard it and I've enjoyed it, and best of luck to you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Iman Tabbara, She's our guest host, guest today. Iman Tabbara.
يعطيكم العافية جميعا.
Yes, she's
It's always a pleasure to see things moving, at least regardless of all the hindrances that we're facing. I have to say it's a positive sign in these tough times to see people like you still trying to move forward with this country. God knows we need all the help that we can get.
Thank you. آخر intervention مع دكتور مسرة. دكتور مسرة إذا بدك بالعربي فيك تحكي. بس please open the camera for the final photo please. دكتور مسرة بدك تحط الصوت مسكر، بدك تفتح الصوت.
بده يضوي الضوء كمان.
يلا تفضل دكتور.
هذه الجلسة غنية جدا وسجلت كثير ملاحظات حول دور المجلس النيابي، دور المجتمع، الصياغة التشريعية. هذه البرنامج هو ختام لمرحلة وليس ختام لهذا العمل. بالفعل المهم في هذا البرنامج إنه مش بس إنتاجه، بالمشورة مع النواب، اللجنة الوطنية، اللجنة البرلمانية تتبع تطبيق القوانين، ومع فاعلين في المجتمع المدني. أهم من إنتاجه هو أرسى منهجية في العمل في صياغة القوانين بفضل المشورة. وثانياً هو تجنب كل أشكال المخادعة في صياغة القوانين وإيهام الناس بالتغيير، لأن القوانين أهميتها هي في التطبيق، وهنا يجب في المستقبل التشديد كثيراً على الأسباب الموجبة وعلى دراسة الجدوى. ونحن في المؤسسة اللبنانية للسلم الأهلي الدائم منذ أكثر من 35 سنة دائما كان عندنا متابعة لكل برامجنا، وهذا العنصر الأهم في الموضوع. وبهذه الطريقة القوانين هي في التطبيق. صار في كثير ملاحظات كثير مهمة، ولكن معضلتنا الكبرى في لبنان هي أن القوانين غير مطبقة لبنانيا. وهنا عندنا تجربة غنية جدا كيف أن الديمقراطية هي بالنهاية الأقوى، صارت أن تكون فاعلة. وهنا التقاعس ليس فقط من جهة مجلس النيابي، في تقاعس أيضا من جهة المجتمع المدني. يجب أن يكون أكثر فعالية من خلال الإعلام العام، من خلال النقابات. مرحلة للبرنامج انتهت، ولكن يجب أن يكون متابعة، لأن النجاح هو في الاستمرارية.
شكرا دكتور مسرة. بعتقد هلا نحن وصلنا للختام هذه الجلسه هون. بتشكركم كلكم. I will thank you everyone, BALADI CAP team, every single member at BALADI CAP, all of you. We love you very much for all your support. Usaid as well, our friends, colleagues, MPs, civil society organizations, experts, everyone. A big like from inside my heart to every one of you. And of course, we will continue. Still, some stuff need to do. I'm still looking for some feedback from you, Mr. Aez, from you, Mr. Azar. You know what I'm looking for. And we'll stay in touch soon. Thank you very much, Mrs. Zainaya. Thank you very much for your also support. Thank you, and we'll meet again soon. Goodbye.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Goodbye.